Alright, welcome back to Fast Gadgets. We're going to do a video on Fedora 25 Beta, which was just released yesterday. And very interesting how Fedora comes out so rapidly. It seems like we just got started on Fedora 25 and now we're already on Fedora, feels like we just got started on Fedora 24 and now we're on Fedora 25. At any rate, I think I'm going to go ahead and use VirtualBox for my virtual machine in this case. I do have VMware Fusion on here as well, but VirtualBox works pretty good for me and I like to use the open source software. Now, I would right now be doing this on my Fedora 24 machine, but unfortunately during updates it actually froze up. I could still move the mouse and everything, but I wasn't able to do anything else. So I think I'm getting to the point where I'm going to probably make a copy of my home directory and then just clear it and do a Fedora 24 install I'll do a Fedora 24 install clean. That particular system, I think I started it on like Fedora 21 or 22, so it's been constantly being updated. And I think it's probably time to just go ahead and do a clean install. So for right now, I'm just going to run this new image here on my Mac. And I think a gigabyte's probably suitable, but I do have a little bit more RAM to spare, so I'll jump it up a little bit. And it's already chosen Fedora 64-bit, which is correct. That's what it's going to be. I'm going to create a new virtual hard disk. And I'll click Create. Since it's going to grow as needed, I do like to go much larger because I don't know how much testing I'm actually going to do. So might as well increase the size, and of course I'm going to do dynamically allocated so that it doesn't actually create a 60 gigabyte file. And I'll click Create, and it is powered off. Now when I start it, it should ask me, it wants to know what ISO do I want to use. I actually have it on an external USB. I've got a 128 gigabyte USB 3 drive here that I use, and I will select, just want to make sure it's the right one. Yep, Beta 1, and open and start. So from here on out I won't need to download the ISO anymore. I can just go ahead and don't show me this message again. Okay. There we go. Anyway, once I have it installed, I can just use yum update. Excuse me, DNF. We don't call it yum anymore. I don't really think I need to test the media, so I'll just do start, but I am going to actually do an installation because I want to test everything, see how the install works. I have a feeling it's going to be basically the same thing as the previous install. Which worked just fine as it was. Since Fedora 21, I haven't seen major changes in the installer. Maybe updates to support different software and newer packages, but that's about it. Now I've heard it's supposed to be using the 4.8.1 kernel, which I think is pretty awesome. Boot up time's pretty quick. I really like these USB drives. It's just a thumb drive, but the thumb drive that I got was the Ultra Fit. I don't know if you've ever used one of those. I'm going to go right to install the hard drive. I'm going to skip trying it in USB mode. So I'd like to be able to do a little playing with it. Let's see what it does when I say install the hard drive. Gets right to it. Awesome. So my app is running, and I'm going to use English. And this is the tricky part because I actually don't see a continue button. What if I press enter? Nope, I don't want to quit the process. I'll press tab again and enter. Okay. So I couldn't actually see the cancel and install buttons because they were too low. And I really feel like this is something that should be fixed because there was still plenty of room down there. And here we are again. See, you really can't see the buttons. But maybe if I changed my view to full screen mode and host plus home will get me out. And host is currently the left command key. Host plus F. Okay. Usually don't worry too much about it because I can always get to the toolbar up here. Anyway, and I think, yeah, I can get to my toolbars wherever I need. Okay, now I can see everything. So it wants me to complete the items. Yeah, I'm going to install it to the only drive I have available in this virtual machine. And I think I'm going to go ahead with automatic partitioning. That works fine. One of these times I'm going to test encryption. I've been thinking about encrypting pretty much all of my OSs, at least the open source ones and my phone, and I'm going to talk more about that in another video. So it has the drive selected. I'll click done. And checking the config. It's got the wired name because it's actually a virtual machine, so it thinks it's on a wired connection. And New York time zone, good enough. We'll set a root password. Not too awful worried. I'll just use a basic one. And done. And might as well create a user, right? I could go into the sudoers file and set all this up and add me as a sudoer, but it's so nice just to be able to click it and make the user an administrator. And another basic password. And done. And it's already to about 16% installation, so it's actually doing quite well. As I mentioned before, I'm using that SanDisk UltraFit 128 gigabyte drive, which I really like because it's so small. Its footprint doesn't really even stick out maybe a quarter of an inch from the side of the computer, so I basically leave it in all the time, and I use it as storage to do, you know, some various stuff, a little bit of backup, ISO storage, stuff like that, and it works really good for me. I actually went ahead and formatted it for a Mac. If I need to, I can pull this out and I can go to any Linux machine and I can copy to it or from it. So I basically have full support. Of course, Windows doesn't see it, but I don't really care. It's probably not a good layer of security, you know what I mean? If you pull it out, put it in another computer and you forget it. But I mean, if it got lost or stolen, it's not really going to be readable on a Windows computer. So, again, I wouldn't consider that really good security, but works for me. So it's already at 58%, which is really quite good. I think once it gets done, I will do a DNF update because I am curious to see if it needs any updates. Did a DNF update on my Fedora 24 machine, which, again, that's the one that's been causing me some grief here. And it had 260 gigabytes of updates, so a sizable chunk of the operating system. And, you know, I really don't expect updates to be a problem, so I was a little bit surprised. I really think it is because I've been running that machine and updating it, you know, with each iteration of Fedora that came out every 6 months. My other Lenovo system, which is a dual boot between Windows 10 and Fedora 23, I have had no problems whatsoever with Fedora 23. But that was a um, clean install of Fedora 23, so a little bit different scenario there. Um, I guess it all depends on what you're doing. And I mean, my Fedora 24 installation on my main Lenovo, I had done quite a bit. Installed many, many, many applications, removed applications, deleted, was doing testing. I'm not surprised at all that it's having problems and it's a little bit messed up because I do production on it, of course, but sometimes I say, yeah, I wonder if this application or that application works on here, or if I compile source code or install an alternate version of a program, and I just go ahead and do it. I don't bother to do it inside a virtual machine because I really feel like the real world testing kind of tells you more. And I don't worry if it crashes like I talked about before because I've got this other system that's dual boot with Windows 10 and Fedora 23, and then I've got this Mac system I bought recently. I've got two other MacBook Pros that are excellent. I've got a desktop computer that's both Fedora 24 and Windows 10. And interestingly enough, that system with Fedora 24, I haven't had any problems with. So it was a clean install. And I just think that you can only get away with upgrading so many times, to the point where you're asking for trouble. So I estimate that I've been going if I think it was Fedora 20. Oh no, it was Fedora 21. Now I remember. I put Fedora 21 on there because it was the first Fedora version that would support that Lenovo Yoga 2 Pro 13-inch laptop, completely all the hardware in it. So we've got 6 months between that and Fedora 22. 23 was a year. 24 was a year and a half. We're getting close to 25. So 2 years of updates, 4 upgrades. I really think it's probably close to the point where it's ready for a clean install. So it told me I could reboot, so I'm rebooting actually, I quit the install. And I think what I'll do so we get a little bit better performance, I'm going to go ahead and power this system off altogether because I like to check out the virtual machine settings to see if I can increase performance at all. And if I check here, I can look in system. Gave it a decent amount of RAM. I don't see a need to change the chipset. It usually does a pretty good job of setting up what's necessary. I think I will increase this to 2 CPUs. Not too worried about that. What will I get if I install PAENX? I don't think that's very important. Display. Yeah, well, let's give it the maximum. Don't have to worry about scaling right now. I wonder if I can enable 3D and 2D. No, it usually detects invalid settings on 2D. And I'm not sure why, but I'm going to enable 3D. And the rest of it I'm not worried about. I'll click OK. So I should get slightly better performance now from this Fedora 25 system. Looks like it's booting back up. I'm going to shut this down again. Powered off. And I want to remove. I just did the same mistake twice. Let's do this. Optical drives, remove disk. And we shall do a reset. Reset. Yeah, 4 point. Well, actually, I heard it was 4.8.1, but for the new kernel, I know that there was some complaining from Linus Torvalds about 4.80 basically being compiled with bugs. And he was not a happy camper about that, and I completely understand that. So we'll get a login here, and first thing I'm going to do is a DNF update. And I think I'll go ahead back into full screen. I have to finish my install, ask me a couple of different questions. Um, for right now, I'm going to turn location services off. And I am going to leave automatic problem reporting on. I like to try to promote, and I'll skip these for right now. I like to promote open source. You know, if they're going to put all this effort in, I think it's important that we as users help out. And I think I'm good there, so I can close that. Now, what's interesting is this new version of Linux does use Wayland. And I'm going to go back outside full screen because I want to install the guest editions. And I like that it has Fedora support for VBox guest editions, and they'll automatically run for me. So I actually don't have to go hunt them down. One of my pet peeves about virtual CDs and real CDs in Linux land. Originally, you know, when a CD was mounted, it wasn't auto mounted, so you had to do it yourself, which was fine. I think I'm missing some packages here. So anyway, yeah, you know, then you had to find out where it was actually mounted when it was auto mounted, which was originally the mount directory, then it was the media directory, then it was user media. And it's like, can we not just use one location? Can't we have something universal and stick with it and just use that one? Media is fine with me. User media, whatever you want to do, but let's stick with one and keep it that way. I think I'll do an update because it sounds like it had a problem with the VBox editions. Also, might be missing a few packages. No big deal, really. And let's check utilities. There's my terminal. I'm going to add it to my favorites and become root. Yeah, it's even telling me there's important updates to be installed already, so let's do a DNF update and see what we're in store with. Yeah, this is kind of like Rawhide, you know, so there's going to be frequent updates, which is great. And the more we use the beta, the better feedback that Fedora gets, and the quicker they can do turnarounds on their updates, and we can get some equitable results. Now that I think about it, with my Lenovo Yoga 2, I think I might back up the home directory and then just blast the whole system, and put Fedora 25 on the hardware, because again, I feel like I learn more about the beta and how it's going to behave on the actual hardware than I do inside a virtual machine. Performance so far is pretty good inside a virtual machine. No complaints. Of course, it's running on my new MacBook Pro i5 13-inch. 2015. It's a 2016 purchase, but really a 2015. And I actually don't regret buying this system. I found it really useful. Much lighter than my old one, so it's not too bad carrying. in my bag. And I know there's going to be new ones coming out, but I did like this one with the ports that it had and the pricing that I got, so I was pretty happy. Looks like a Perl update. I didn't pay attention to see if it had a kernel update. Did anybody see that? Yes, there is a newer one, but not too new. Oh no, 4.8.1.1. So it is the newer kernel. All right, so it completed the update. There actually was quite a bit of stuff to be updated. I do notice that it is still installing the Xorg X11. I think it's basically there for backup in case Wayland isn't working correctly. So let's see how fast it reboots, even though it is a virtual machine. And it is using 4.8.1 of the kernel. I actually froze my Yoga 2 Pro 13-inch at 4.5.5 because it was the last kernel that was correctly supporting power management on that system, and I didn't really want to compile a new kernel at the time, so I froze it, which made it a lot easier. Alright, we're booted back up. I think what I might try is we're going to try again with guest editions, getting them installed. Alright, so there's where it's actually set up, run MediaMark. So we'll cruise into terminal and we will become root, change directory to run MediaMark, and change directory to the VBox guest editions. And we are root, so we'll give this a try. Gosh. We'll try this one. Well, let's tail -50 var log VBox guest editions .log. You know, it's funny because they have you go and check the log, right? But wouldn't it be really nice if they just go ahead and tell you that you need kernel headers in GCC and make? I'm just saying. I think I've already got GCC, but we'll start with those two. Okay, those are installed. I bet I don't have kernel headers. DNF install kernel-headers. Those are also installed. We could check. Sometimes all you have to do is disable SE Linux. So let's set enforce permissive and then we will check and make sure that we actually made the change. We did. So we'll just go ahead and try and install it again, because it looks like the packages we need to install it are there. It wasn't that one, it was this one. Sometimes SE Linux interferes with the install. Yep. Nope. GCC make the header files for your Linux kernel. I wonder, you know what I bet I'm missing? DNF update kernel dash devil. Yeah, I meant install, right? Kernel dash devil. Go for the gold. So this was missing. So maybe it's that. One of the problems I have with Linux, and it's not a problem with Linux, it's a problem with me, is I do so many of these fixes and then I forget what I did to actually make the fix. Like in this case, getting the VirtualBox editions installed. The problem is I haven't done one of these in quite a while in VirtualBox because I was using VMware Fusion or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, what did I do? I really don't remember. So I have to go back and do a little hunting and pecking to do the install of the VirtualBox guest editions. I'm crossing my fingers at this point. If it doesn't work, well, it's looking good here because this is taking a while. That's encouraging. Or I broke it. That never happens, right? I always get freaked out when nothing's happening and you're just kind of sitting there waiting and you're really hoping. Aha! There's problem number one right there. We are on Wayland, so it noted like that. Okay, well, so the VBox, oh well, there's a newer version of VirtualBox 2, which probably supports Wayland, but they're being the pioneer, Fedora is, and let's log out. Now this is one of the cool things. I'm glad I'm doing a virtual machine because you can see all of this stuff. And I'm going to click mark, and before I even do anything, I can do gnome on Xorg, which means that those VirtualBox guest editions, at least for now anyway, are not going to work on Wayland. And then I will log back in. That is the price for being the pioneer, you know. They decided to go with Wayland, and I actually understand. It's just everybody else has to catch up. You know, I hate to say it, Microsoft can get away with that and say, yeah, well, you know, we're going to go ahead and use this new software or whatever, and all the industry needs to support it, and they're going to do it or else. But with Fedora, they go ahead and use Wayland, and you know, VirtualBox usually is very responsive and is constantly being updated, but it's hard to say how long it'll be. Check this out. What do you think? How long should I wait before I decide that it's dead? Probably should have done a restart before I did the VirtualBox guest editions, or before I went into Xorg. It probably would have been a good idea. Well, it is a virtual machine and it is a beta. Ha ha ha. So heck with it, right? Let's do it. Let's just reset it. Why not? We don't really care if we break it. That's the point after all, isn't it? You would think I would at least get to the logon screen. Well, there is the non-GUI. So that's the GUI. I at least can go over to the non-GUI screens. Oh, now it won't let me. Well, I know Xorg is installed, so... I think the GUI just restarted itself because I was on the... Yeah, I was on Control-Alt-F2 so I could get a login. And if I do Control-Alt-F1, I go back to the GUI. That isn't very graphical at this point. One process for Xorg. I wonder if I have to do a capital X. Yeah, on VT1, it should be displaying right now, but it's not. Let's go back to Control-F1. Clearly it tried to load something, but it looks like Xorg's a big fail. Strange. I wonder if I... Oops. There, it tried to restart the GUI again right there. I wonder. I'm sure it's not this, but let's check. Yeah, I went back to enforcing. So I might go ahead and set that permanently as permissive, at least for a little while. Let's give a gentle, happy rehup to that process. Rehup did work. Oh, interesting. Oh, not so interesting. That's actually a feature of the Mac, the enlarged mouse. I was thinking, wow, they built that into Linux. That's really cool. Anyway. So I definitely got a new process, but let's set SE Linux to be permissive. And then we'll reboot the system and see if that helps us at all. We could also try, well, if we had to, we could try rescue. It's not even, oh, I guess it's my birthday. And Gnome on Xorg can't really say if this will work, but at least we've got the login screen, so I think it's probably going to work. But you know, I shouldn't be that excited, right? Uh-oh. Well, let's go back to... Well, I'm trying to go... There we go. Back to the command line. And run... And we're going to try and do this installation again and see how lucky we get. Could be a problem of a partial install of the VirtualBox guest editions. And if this doesn't work, we could always try it in VMware Fusion as well. Might get better luck in VMware Fusion, but it's hard to say. But we did get it to boot up in Wayland. I guess I should have left it in Wayland and just dealt with not having the guest editions later. Hopefully it can detect Xorg now, because technically speaking we are loaded. Unsupported pre-release version of Xorg server installed, not installing the Xorg drivers. So it sees it as an older version. Complicated. And if I do Control F1, so it went back to the login screen. And since that's the case, I think what I'll do, it actually wants me to unlock. How curious. Wow. Interesting, isn't it? I could do a VirtualBox update, which probably isn't a bad idea. It possibly could help. Not too impressed. Well, I'll do a reboot, and I'll see if I can get it booted back up and get it into Wayland so we can at least do a little bit of experimenting with the GUI and see how things are different. And just forego the guest editions for right now. By the way, if you're using a Mac, in order to get Control Alt F1, you have to do Function, Control, Option, and then the F1 or F2 keys or whatever you need. So that's how I'm getting the ability to do my function keys, which you need to do to switch from the graphical interface, which is running on BT1, which is F1 to switch to it on the keyboard, and then F2, 3, 4, and I think it goes up to 8 are virtual command line screens. And that's all we had in the bad old days. So I did issue a reboot. And it doesn't respond to a Control-Alt-Delete. Well, we don't need to wait. It looks like Wayland was working, but I had a lot of problems with Wayland in Fedora 24. I still don't feel like it's ready for prime time, but I mean, it might be okay. Well, let's see if we can get Wayland running. At least we're getting the login screen to come up now. And if I put in my password, I can switch back to just GNOME, which is actually Wayland. If it isn't able to log into Wayland, I'm gonna almost have to say I broke something, which is why I was thinking I should have tried the Xorg implementation before I even installed the VirtualBox guest editions. Huh. I have a bad feeling I've made a mess of this system. I think I've killed it. Well, it's a good opportunity to check out the rescue mode. So we'll do a reboot again. See if it actually reboots this time. Okay, I'm going to try rescue mode. I'm not sure what it'll do for me. It'll probably just give me a command line. Actually, rescue mode took me to a GUI. I find that interesting. All right, let's try it one more time. I made a big mess of things, didn't I? Oh. I wonder what maybe rescue mode skip the VBox drivers or something. Let's see if we can alter the display settings. In Wayland, I did have a problem with this. Yeah, this is all I would get for display settings in Wayland. So yeah, that was a bit of a problem for me. I'm gonna try to log off, and I'm going to switch to Xorg and see if I can get other settings. I hate it when I forget my password. I'm really hoping this will work. It looks like, yeah, Xorg loaded in rescue mode, so that's something to remember. When in doubt, use rescue mode. So let's see what display settings I get now. Same thing. Interesting. And what apps do we have installed by default? I think it's showing me my... Let me go full screen here. Yeah. Frequent, I want all. Well, my first impression of the OS is that it is buggy. Of course, it's a beta 1. You know, I mean, what did we expect after all? So it's definitely a work in progress. I'm going to see if there's another update, because sometimes after you do the updates, there's still another round of updates you need to do. Nope. Just something to think about, though. And I do have sound up, so can we hear any sounds? How about here? It's always funny when you look at in a virtual machine. Here it knows that it's on a battery and it has 89%, but it's using a wired connection. It doesn't know it's on Wi-Fi, so it's like the VirtualBox can sense some of the hardware. So I just want to see if sound is working. Ads are working, aren't they? Without the VBox drivers, though, might not be. Playback doesn't begin shortly. Try restarting your device. Okay. Huh. Well, I think I will update the virtual machine, rather VirtualBox as well. It may be that VirtualBox has some support issues, so that's one thing I can do for sure. Any changes in settings? One of my big pet peeves was the mouse. It really doesn't look any better. There's so few settings with the mouse. Anything else I'm immediately concerned about? Hmm. Oh well. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. Might be able to remedy that with a simple update of VirtualBox. And I could always run one in VMware Fusion. I have the latest one here, so and just see which one works better. My experience has been VirtualBox does a way better job of supporting. The software store was supposed to be updated. Anyway, VirtualBox does a better job of supporting Linux, in my opinion. And I can do a search. It definitely looks updated. I wonder if the GNOME tweak tool is still available. Does appear to be. Let's launch it. I really like the tweak tool. So if you get additional themes, you can use the tweak tool to switch back and forth between the different themes. Of course, we can add extensions. Window list. Display a window list at the bottom of the screen. That's kind of old school. I'm not really too worried about that. Top bar. So yeah, the title bar buttons right now it only has close, so they've gotten rid of, you know, restore, maximize, and minimize. I like those. Workspaces are on. It's dynamic. It'll create them as needed, or I could do static and just have 4 of them or whatever. Dynamic's okay. I want to test and see if I can get new extensions because sometimes it doesn't quite work right. I do have to allow the extensions to run the GNOME shell integration, so I'll allow it. Do allow and remember, and do a refresh. Hopefully that red bar will now be gone, and it is. This I really like. workspace indicator. To me, I mean, you got all this room up here. Let's put it to use. Turn that one on. Go ahead and install the extension. And there's my workspace indicator. There's all kinds of cool extensions that you can get. Weather's always a good thing to know. And I can go look around while I'm waiting. All right, so I did install those extensions. Now let's go back to the tweak tool. In here I'm going to forget workspaces. We'll go ahead and do static. So it doesn't actually okay, that's cool. So I can move my stuff to other workspaces. Then I can cruise to workspace 2. I wonder if I click this. Oh yeah, I like that. I really like the workspaces. To me, it really helps me a lot. Because I can organize, you know, once I get full screen resolution, I can have settings where I can have all of my command line that I'm running, and then I might have internet here, you know, Word applications here, whatever. You get the idea. So it's working okay. There's some bugaboos, and we've already tried installing the VirtualBox editions, which didn't work. So on another video, I think I'll do an update of VirtualBox, and we'll find out if that helps at all. So this has been a very kind of a brief, well, it wasn't brief, it's about an hour now, this video. Setup of Fedora and a little bit of playing around with it. Fedora 25 beta. I can see where it's got a few issues, and they may, because they're pushing Wayland, there may be some support issues with corresponding software. But I want to thank you for watching, and for those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the videos, and I will see you on the next video. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and I do hopefully ask that you will share the video. That's always appreciated. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video.